Over the last 25 years, I have had the privilege of interviewing and highlighting some truly interesting people. I mean, everyone who is anyone, both the famous and the infamous, from presidents and their first ladies to kings and queens, movie stars and pop stars, captains of industry, heads of state, sports personalities, innovative entrepreneurs, and some pretty fascinating everyday people. Today, I'd like to introduce you to Dr. LeWayne Johnson, a retired military officer and veteran who is dedicated to ensuring ample access to assistance for as many veterans in need of services as possible. First of all, let me say thank you for your service, sir. We, on behalf of a grateful nation, appreciate those of you who stand on the line for our freedom. So thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. So, Dr. Johnson, why don't we start off talking about your military experience? Both my father and all of my uncles served in the military, so I come from that kind of background. How did you serve your country, and how do you think that prepared you for the rest of your career, sir?
Coming out of high school, I had no idea that I would be in the military. And to make a long story short, I have 38 years of military service with the U.S. military, to include 4 years of Air Force and the remaining years with the Army. Additionally, I have 37 years of service with the federal government as a senior manager. Now, when I first started, I started as an enlisted, and I spent 6 years as an enlisted, promoted all the way to E7, or rather E6, I'm sorry. And then I crossed over into the officer's rank after I got my master's degree. And from that point, I served as an officer in the military. And I got all the way up to CW5. Now, there are 3 ranks structures in the military. The enlisted ranks, which go from E1 private all the way up until E9. And then there's the regular officer rank that goes from lieutenant all the way up to colonel. And then there's the technical officer rank that goes all the way up from WO1, which is Warrant Officer 1, all the way up to CW5. So I got to the highest rank in the military before in my rank structure, before I had to retire at age 60. Of course, there are also the general officer's rank that goes from general officers 1 all the way up until general officers 4, and in George Patton case, general officers 5.
Following your progression through the military, how do you think that prepared you for the rest of your career?
I think it gave me the structure that I needed to deal with the problems and this problem-solving techniques that I have employed throughout my career. It also gave me the foundation and the order of developing my career, and specifically as a senior enlisted and as a officer, it gave me an opportunity to help those individuals that were of rank that was younger than myself and needed the type of guidance that the training that I acquired in the military equipped me with.
And it's interesting, speaking of problems, I had the occasion to sit with Congresswoman Karen Bass from California, and she made me aware of the number of veterans who are homeless in our nation. And I know that is something that you have studied very, very closely. Let's talk about the problem of veteran homelessness. How did you become aware of this issue? Because I have to admit, when I thought of homeless, I just couldn't imagine that we would be a country that would allow those who had served us to be amongst that huge number, until I found out that is actually a significant number of our homeless in this nation. And so I'm just curious, how did you find out about it? And have you been working in this area to take steps to try to resolve it and solve it? Because I know this is so important to you.
This is near and dear to my heart, Ms. Jones, because again, I'm a member of the military. And in the military, we made a commitment to serve and protect the United States Constitution and its citizens. And with that commitment comes an obligation from the U.S. to also help us after we've gone to war and defended the Constitution of the United States and the citizens of the United States. So I feel as though we have an obligation. So I was taking my wife and I were going to a restaurant one evening, and this guy came up to us begging for money. And I noticed that he had a military cap on. And I asked him, "Are you military?" And he said, "Yes." And I said, "Well, why are you on the street asking for money? We have VA. Doesn't VA give you money?" He said, "Well, VA is giving me the runarounds. It's been at least 5 years since I filed a claim with VA, and they've given me nothing." And he said, "So now I'm living in the woods with my wife, and she's pregnant, and I'm living in a plastic tent." And I said, "Are you serious?" And he said, "Yes." And you know, I didn't. Again, I felt that he was very genuine in saying that, and so I gave him some money, and I got his. He had a cell phone. I got a cell phone, and I gave him my cell phone, and I contacted the Salvation Army, and I contacted the Mercy Foundation,
Good for you.
and we got him into a shelter, and we got his wife taken care of. Now, that was the beginning, and I start saying, maybe there are other individuals out there that are homeless. And I did my research, and I found there are 30 million military veterans in this country, and over 60,000 of them are homeless.
Yes.
And these are the ones that are sheltered. Now, the ones that are unsheltered are the ones that are refusing to go into the VA or refusing to go into the facilities because of whatever reason. They may have kids. And I ran across a young lady who had 4 kids, who had just left Philadelphia, had just got out of the military, and had come to Florida, and she was homeless.
Wow.
And she was sleeping in her car, going to work at Popeye's Chicken every day, dressing her kids for school, and taking her kids to school just like she was living in a regular apartment, picking her kids up from school and going back and sleeping in her car. And so I was able to get her into a homeless shelter also. Here in my county alone, Ms. Jones, we have at least 68 individuals that are declared homeless that are sheltered. And the ones that are sheltered that are not sheltered are probably, we don't know, but it's a lot of them out there. Florida is the state with the second largest homeless population in the country. California has the first largest veteran population in the country, and then you have Texas. And I think, again, to have one individual that are homeless, that's a veteran, that have put their lives on the line, made a commitment to this country to protect this country and its citizen, is just unheard of, Ms. Jones. And so I think that we as a country should ante up and take care of those that have taken care of us.
I understand, and I completely agree with you, Dr. Johnson. So I want to stay on this topic because I like to be solution oriented. What do you think are some key roadblocks standing in the way of getting veterans the help that they need, and how can we as a society work to overcome them? You pointed out that there's a need. Help me to understand why there's a problem, and then what can we do to solve it?
The issue, one of the main issues here, Ms. Jones, is that individuals are not aware that we have so many individuals out here that are veterans that are homeless, just like you and myself. We weren't aware. Now, I partnered with the Fulbright Association out of Walden University, and we did a study on not only the veterans, homeless veterans here in the U.S., but also the homeless veterans that are in Canada. And we found out that the numbers were similar. So I think that we need to educate the politicians, and that's what I've been doing. I've been educating my senators, I've been educating my congressmen, I've been educating my city commissioners and county commissioners on the issue that we have here in Florida. My proposal is that we create a community, a shelter, where we are looking at homeless veterans population, not just from where they need to live, but rather what promulgated this homelessness. Once they get out of the military, do they have jobs? Once they get out of the military, are they mentally stable? Once they get out of the military, do they have somewhere to stay? A lot of individuals don't. Like the individual that I talked with about that had the 4 kids. She was sexually assaulted in the military by one of the individuals in her senior command, individuals in her command. She reported that individual. That individual commander commissioned one of his buddies to look at the report and the allegation, and they found nothing was out of the ordinary. And so what happened is that they brought her up on charges and they chaptered her out. And so when they brought her up on charges and chaptered her out, she went back out into the community with her kids, and she didn't have a place to stay.
Or the resources.
Yeah, she didn't have a job. And so these are some of the things that we need to educate the public on what's happening. A lot of individuals say, what about VA? Well, VA doesn't help you unless you go to VA. And the unfortunate thing is that VA doesn't have shelters to put individuals in. And they have to find shelters on the outside to put individuals in. And so those are some of the issues that we're facing.
And I know that you have founded and lead the Florida Coalition to Prevent Veteran Homelessness. Why don't you talk to me a little bit about that organization and where you see its future?
So the Florida Coalition to Prevent Veterans Homelessness is a forward-thinking organization that with the charter of pulling together those resources in the community that are going to be helping veterans, specifically facilities such as those that offer job or employment opportunities to veterans once those veterans get off of active duty. Facility that offer clothes to veterans, facilities that offer food and shelter to veterans. I just put together a veterans job fair on June 22nd. I'm putting together another one in November, on November 12th. Again, that's designed to bring in resources and to bring in veterans, to pull those resources and veterans together so that they can start talking. I also talk with my congressman, Darren Soto, who is a state rep for the state of Florida, and also Congresswoman Val Demings, who's running for Senate here in Florida, on the issues that we're having with veterans homelessness, on the issue that we're having with veteran suicide. That's a big issue also. 17 per day, 17 individuals per day throughout the country are killing themselves because they can't find a job, find a home, find food. Okay. And so my focus with the Florida Coalition to Prevent Veterans Homelessness is to do just that, prevent, put together a coalition that's going to get those individuals as soon as they get off of active duty, and walk those individuals through a 1-year transition process so that we can get those individuals taken care of and monitor those individuals so that we can put them back into society.
So you're talking real hands-on contact with these people, and I congratulate you on your efforts. I'm wondering, Dr. Johnson, because this is the kind of stuff that we always say that we're supposed to do in our own community. Do you consider yourself a role model for others?
I was born and raised on a cotton farm back down in Jim Crow, Mississippi. And so the struggle for me is real. And some people don't understand that. People think that, hey, he's trying to yank his chain or whatever the case may be. He's trying to get popularity. But no, I'm not. I'm trying to help my brothers and sisters. So if I could help one person get out of the woods, get out of their cars, get off the street, I feel as though my life has not been in vain. If I could give an individual the insight, the knowledge to help, to create a program so that these individuals could do well, then I would not have done it in vain. And so as far as being a role model, I know for a lot of African Americans, youth, they feel that up the ladder is sports, up the ladder is entertainment, up the ladder is everything with the exception of academics. But I want to let them know that academics is the key. Horace Mann once said, education is the great equalizer. And I think that was true then, and it certainly is true now.
I could not agree with you more. I think that everything that I have ever accomplished in my career started with the foundation of education. I'm positive of that. And I would not have had success in law, in business, or in media if I didn't have that law degree. So you and I are completely speaking the same language and are on the same page. And that really does bring me to this question, because I understand you were the first person in your family to receive a college education. You told me that you grew up on a cotton farm. I grew up in a housing project, and education was placed as, in the forefront of our family. And my grandparents were working class people, but they put every single one of their 9 daughters through college.
Right.
And so that's how important it was. What about you and your family? How important was it for you to get that college education and serve as a person that breaks a generational cycle so that you can be an example for the future?
It was, I'm just ecstatic over the fact that I was the first. I did not aspire to be the first. It just happened that way. Mm-hmm. I had great aunts and great aunts and great great aunts and great great aunts that came before me, and they felt that you get out of school, you get a job, you make money, you pay bills, and that's it. Education never did anything for anybody. These are the words of my father. Education never did anything for anybody. He was a combine operator on the farm. And we were living in a shotgun house, tin roof. We wasn't paying any rent or anything of that nature, because as long as we worked on the plantation, guess what? The white man allowed us to stay on his plantation. Once we grew up and didn't want to work the plantation, or once the white man decided to sell the plantation, he came to us and said, y'all got to find somewhere else to stay. And so we had to move to one of his buddies' plantation. And we stayed there until we were until I was 11. And it just so happened that mom decided to leave dad and move in with her brother. And that's the only time that we broke that cycle in living on the plantation. And so when I was in high school, I learned how to play an instrument, a trombone, and I got a music scholarship to a historical Black college, university, Lane College, Jackson, Tennessee. And that's what started my plight to education. I realized that some of the places that I had only read about being at, Paris, London, etc., it was achievable. And so I started striving to make education the catalyst of my life. After I went to college, every single niece, nephew, my kids, all of my nieces and nephews have either MAs or MBAs after me. Nobody before me, but after me. So
bravo, sir, bravo. Talk about breaking that generational cycle.
That's right, girl. I'm telling you, that's right.
Dr. Johnson, we're coming to the conclusion, but I do want to say this because I'm paying attention. You said you had aunties and all that stuff, and clearly your mother wanted more for her family. What role did your family play in your success?
I think my grandmother played the biggest role in my success. My grandmother was a midwife, and she was one of the few African-American midwives down in Mississippi. She always wanted to be a nurse. But the doctor that she worked under her told her that because it was illegal for Blacks to go to medical school, that he could not endorse her going to medical school and to be a nursing school, to be a nurse, or to medical school to be a doctor, and therefore she had to remain a midwife. And she raised me. And so it was her drive, her determination, her focus that really, really kept me going and really, really showed me that I could be more than just driving a combine or twisting a screw or busting my head on the football field or shooting baskets. I mean, I'm not taking anything away from anybody. Michael Jordan is the greatest basketball player that has ever lived. We have some great football players, but my area, and I would like to pass this on to individuals that are out there that's going to be listening to this video, get the education, because that's what's going to set you apart and or equalize you to make a difference in this country. And
that's exactly what I was going to ask you. What is the one thing you want the viewer of this video feature to walk away with? And I'm glad you said education. And you and I both know that it not only is a great equalizer, but it is the great opportunity provider. And clearly the things that you have achieved and the goals that you have set were enhanced by your education and striving to be the very best that you can be. Dr. Johnson, thank you so much for the time today, and more importantly, just thank you again for your service. One of my favorite people was Congresswoman Shirley Chisholm, and yes. Congresswoman Chisholm said that service is the rent we pay for the privilege of living on this earth. I remember that. I will never forget it. And I try to live my life in that manner. And it is such a pleasure to meet somebody who does it the same exact way.
Thank you very much, Ms. Jones. I really appreciate the opportunity of talking with you and meeting you. Your bio is impressive. Your husband's bio is impressive. We all all three of us come from the same litter to make it.
That's it.
Yes, and we're the ones that people are looking up to make a difference. And I appreciate your service to the community.
Thank you, sir. And right back at you.
Thank you, ma'am.